If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the Filthy Capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch indeed. A child shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
Does Cocaine Jesus have a channel? I don't want people seeing my chubby self. Sauna! Half an hour and 250 degrees. Fahrenheit, my brother. That'll get you everything you need, bro. Okay.
All right, guys. Next up on the list.
Increase your heart rate.
I just realized.
If you do a 3-minute plank in a sauna after a half an hour, your heart rate will literally shoot up to, what was it, 189?
Don't do that without talking to your doctor.
189. Your heart rate will shoot up to 189, and then it'll negate your resting heart rate by like 3 clicks. I was at 79 to 75. It's my resting heart rate. So anyway, I'm a big believer in the sauna. Okay, guys, here we go. This is another song from Census Fail. What's the name of the song?
The name of this song is... No, that's not. That's the last one.
Vines?
Vines, yep.
Vines from Census Fail. Let's go.
Every
What?
I knew they were gonna get killed for this song by Ben and Amy.
Why?
They don't like this band. they don't like this band.
But
and this is like, it's a positive message, and I'm assuming they're gonna say it was a little bit preachy. So but you like preachy.
I do like preachy, because preachy to me feels like, oh, okay, well, there's something we can do about that. It's very practical. It's something that it's directional. You know, when he says every day is another chance to fill all the graves that I've been digging.
Yeah.
Like, I like that. I think that, you know, that especially, like, sometimes you can let yourself get to such a dark place that you feel like there's no way out. And any attempt at trying to get out only digs you deeper into the hole. And it's like quicksand. And you just feel like everything's just kind of overtaking you.
Yeah.
And then, especially in regards to making mistakes and having to live with past regret, he says the act of forgiving yourself for everything that you did. Again, we talked about this before, where it's, you know what? You're a sinful person. I'm a sinful. We're all going to do stuff, and we're going to interface with each other, and our hurts and our inconsistencies and just whatever selfishness is going to affect other people. And then you have to look at the fallout of what you've done to other people. And sometimes you could get so overwhelmed by that. It can feel like, well, how do you come out of that? Because at some point you have to say, all right, you know, today I live the life of a hypocrite. But we always hear so much about hypocrites. Nobody wants to be a hypocrite. But if you've been a shitty person every single day, there has to be a day where you say, you know what? I'm going to try not to be a shitty person, and I'm going to try to do the right thing. And you can feel like a hypocrite when you're doing the right thing when you haven't been doing it. And so then you feel like a hypocrite. And so then you're like, well, wait a minute. Should I just go backwards? No, don't go backwards. Like, just start filling in the graves. Like, every day is an opportunity for that. And every day is a new day to try for that, and to, you know, you can't fix everything. You know, there's that story about you take the feather pillow to the top of the building and you let all the feathers out. And then if you try to collect them the next day, you're not going to be able to collect them all. There's some things that you can't reverse the damage that's been done. But you can certainly try, you know, make a little throw pillow, you know?
BC says, I'm a proud hypocrite. You are. I've noticed that on numerous occasions. Gang, shout out to BC.
Oh boy, that's funny. Okay, so yeah, so I liked that. But are they saying? Is he saying you should make your foundation on faith? It should be based on faith.
It looks like what he's saying is, or be crushed by the weight of the brick and the mortar that you founded on faith. So he's saying, it looks to me like he's saying that faith is a faulty foundation. But he says, if your foundation is cracked, then your facade is a waste. So, I just think that, you know, with the concept of faith and how that works as self-improvement, because this isn't really a relationship song. This is more like a Tony Robbins personal development type of song.
Yeah.
And
that's what I got from it too.
I think what some of the most ridiculous advice you can ever tell a person is to believe in themselves. Mm-hmm. I think that that's just so silly.
Okay, well, actually, can you dig a little further into that?
Well, first of all, we're so limited in basic things that we need for survival. For example, information. Mm-hmm. Because you're not an omniscient being, you are completely, like, literally thousands of people in our country died last year because they believed in themselves.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, I understand what all these medical experts are saying, but I'm going to go to here to WeKnowTheTruth.org. And it's so fascinating to me, and yeah, I'm going to go here. It's like, you've got anti-vaxxers, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about people who are against the COVID vaccine, not necessarily against, but saying, I'm not comfortable with it. That's not an anti-vaxxer. An anti-vaxxer, we're talking about polio, we're talking about mumps, measles, rubella. Yeah. That's an anti-vaxxer. So they're automatically going to be against the COVID vaccine. So you get Dr. Malone or Dr. McCullough. both of which start off by saying, I believe in vaccinations. But they don't hear that part about it. All they hear is, see, I told you! So it's like, if you were really listening to Malone and McCullough from the Joe Rogan show, you would get your kids vaccinated with the polio, the mumps, measles, rubella, etc., etc.
Yeah, yeah.
But you only hear that they don't believe in the vaccine to the degree that the mainstream media is talking about it. If you listen to that show, like there was like a 3-hour show where they were really going in depth, and both those perspectives were pretty nuanced. They were not the party line, but they were both nuanced. But everybody that I have listened to in long form that has critiqued the popular narrative about COVID and the vaccine and the boosters and all that, to a man, they've all said, well, no, we believe in vaccines. But this is something completely different than, you know what I'm saying? So like that's just one example of trillions of like how silly it is to say, telling people to look inward and look within themselves to get, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you can't even drive, you can't even get from A to B looking within yourself. Like, you know, the answers are actually outside of you.
Yeah.
You know, the questions originate inside of you, but the answers do not find their peak inside of you.
You know, to be honest with you, the most destructive person that I've seen, they're completely in their own head all the time.
Yeah.
And anytime anybody says something like outside of them, they can't even hear like how stuff affects other people because everything is so internalized. And they, you know, when they talk, you understand that it's always noise going on inside, and all 100%. Of the thoughts, you know, there's that sign that, you know, like, you know, small people talk about other people, you know, regular people talk about things, and then like,
yeah, successful people talk about whatever. Yeah. Dreams or something
dreams,
like that.
Yeah. But that idea, I think that there's some truth to that. I think that, you know, if you're only wrapped up in how everything affects you and how it's all about you, then you can't feel for other people and you can't understand where other people are coming from. And even when you do for a second hear, like, because there are times where the person talks and you're like, oh, they caught a glimpse of it, but they lose it so fast.
100%.
They just get a little tip of understanding for somebody else, and then it gets consumed again in how it affects them directly. So, I don't remember where I was going with that, but it was something you said that...
Well, yeah, people who look within themselves for answers. I mean, that's almost the definition of insanity. Is you're so folded into yourself. Like, you need external stimuli to make sense of the world around you.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of the reason why solitary confinement makes people go so crazy.
Well, and listen,
it's the only thing that you have is yourself.
If Helen Keller was completely wrapped up in herself,
she was, and then she got that teacher that helped her get out of it.
Physiologically, being blind, what is being blind and deaf? It means that you cannot react to certain forms of external stimuli, and that's bad. So my point is, on a philosophical, spiritual level, it's the same thing. In order to make sense of the world, philosophically and spiritually, you need outside sources. You can't look within yourself. If you look within yourself, you're literally blind and deaf. But you know, we're so egocentric in the country and in the time period we're in, where it's YouTube and MySpace and me.
It's a lot of opinions.
People really believe that their opinions are just as worthy as other people's opinions. No, they're not. But what he's saying here is I think is healthy in the main. Stop blaming yourself for and look, there are different kinds of blame. Like I always talk about, I always dichotomize blame and responsibility. And I say responsibility is redemptive because it's empowering. It's saying, I did this, that means I can affect a different outcome, or I can change this. Blame is simply, you did this and it's unchangeable and you're stuck in that state and boom, that's where you are forever and there's nothing. I'm always going to pin that on you. That's blame. It's non-redemptive. And what happens a lot of time is people refuse to take responsibility because they think they're taking blame. They don't see that, no, actually, yeah, I did that thing. That means I can do my best to undo it. Now, there's certain things you can't undo. Like, Dorian was in a situation yesterday. And normally when he does certain things, I jump up and I stop him. But I didn't stop him. I didn't stop him this time, because at some point, he's a man. He's 16 years old, but he's got the mind of probably a 21-year-old person. And so at that point,
older than that in some areas.
At that point, I'm like, no, I'm not going to stop you, because we've had the lessons, we've talked about it over and over again.
Yep.
And now I'm gonna engage you and say, you could do that, but you're never gonna be able to undo it. You're never gonna be able to take it back. And he calmed down immediately. He said, "Thank you, Father."
Yeah.
But it was a highly emotional moment.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But like it's situations like that to where it's like, when you put in that kind of work on yourself as a person, he was able to take responsibility for his emotions in that moment. And in that, I was telling him, you're going to hold yourself responsible for that. And when you're trained to be empowered by your own actions and to say, yeah, I'm going overboard here.
Yep.
Then you can self-correct without anybody having to go in the middle and do anything about it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So like those, when you're a parent, you're teaching your kids, a lot of times you're teaching your kids things that you learn. Now I didn't have a dad to kind of explain that to me, break that down to me. You know what I'm saying? I had to pretty much figure that out on my own after you made a million mistakes and you've done a bunch of things that you can't undo and do things that you can't unsee. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and I've had to pretty much figure that out. Me and God, and it's been great. But that was a pretty cool moment, because it was the height of a very, very emotional situation, and that statement, go ahead and do it, but you're never going to be able to undo it. Like, for him to be able to switch gears and take that accountability and stop, that was a big ask for a normal 16-year-old. It was a major ask, and obviously we're being intentionally vague, but he stopped immediately, and he sat down and he calmed down. And I think a lot of people, if you can get rid of the blame, in the sense of this irredeemable, I did something wrong, I screwed up, but there's no redemption attached to it. There's no growth from it. There's no, well, this is what I learned. There's no, well, I'm going to use the same power to undo it. There's none of that. Yeah, you need to get rid of that. You know what I'm saying? And Ben hates, Atlas Shrugged, but that's one of the real themes of the story is personal responsibility. The bad guys never want to take responsibility for anything. And it's because people conflate blame and responsibility.
Yeah.
They're not the same thing.
Yeah.
What were you saying with that?
Oh, I just think it's funny the way that the guy does the voices. Because you had said it, you said it to me, but then like once I started listening to it, I'm like, it's true. Every single time it's somebody that won't take responsibility, he always makes them sound like a bitch. They're whiny. They're like, it's not my fault. I tried everything I could. Yeah,
and that's what I really liked. I mean, the song's a little bit preachy, but you've got a chance, and you do have to forgive yourself. And I'm actually glad.
Yeah, stop blaming yourself for everything.
Yeah, you got it.
Is a good thing also. Like, I think that there's some people that they can't accept blame for anything. And so it's like, you got to start taking responsibility. But on the flip side, there's some people that they just blame themselves for everything. Everything is their fault.
I know.
Everything is their fault. And when you're in a situation like that, when everything is your fault, then nothing can be your fault.
Right. Because
you've taken responsibility for everything that doesn't even matter. So then when something really does matter, you don't have the strength to face that, because you feel like you've been assaulted all over the place by everything else you've messed up on. So that's not a good place to be either, but
yeah, and don't spend so much of your life wasting water on withering vines. Like, there are things that you've done that you won't be able to change. You cannot change the past. And there are some instances in which you can't even change the present. And sometimes the lesson is you have to figure out what exactly needs to change.
Yep.
Because that's very complex. Sometimes you need to change. Sometimes the person needs to change. Sometimes the status of the relationship needs to change. Sometimes the job needs to change.
Sometimes the location needs to
The
change.
location needs to change. Like,
Sometimes the relationship, like the person you're in a relationship with, you need to leave that relationship.
right. And so, like, it's, but if you completely internalize everything, all those other options aren't gonna, be there. Like, I my, the last time I worked for a person, he's like, you're a very, very hard person to manage. And the reason I'm a hard person to manage is because God didn't make me to be an employee. He made me, to be what we're doing now. Like, this is the wheelhouse. And even when I was doing other things, like, it was basically just leave Vin and his friends alone. Just tell them what to do, and they'll come back with they'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's me. So when people talk about, like, personal growth, those are the things, like, those are the questions that need to be asked, right? Like, how am I going to grow for this? How do you define what growth is? Where's my area of responsibility? What does this say about change? Where does it need to change? There's so many questions to ask. And if it just whittles down to, I'm a bad person, I suck, I'm horrible, then, you're never going to be able to get there. So, the song was a little bit preachy, but it was still giving you really, really good advice, I think. And if you can, and I also like the fact that this guy, it seems that he's got some healthy thought patterns, because the last 3 songs from him have been pretty, not depressing, but clearly showing that he wasn't doing well. So kudos to him for that.
Yeah. And he said that he did this in his past. So that's how he was able to, get this advice.
Phil.
He said, I know all this because I used to live that way.
Yeah.
So to me, it's less preachy, because he's saying, look, this is where I was. I'm just going to give you the advice. This is what I learned.
And based on the last songs we've been listening to, he ain't bullshitting. What do you get the song?
8.9.
8.8. Literally, I gave it an 8.8. Amy's last psych eval. My recent psych eval. Uneasy to manage. No shit.
All right, so we're going on to the last song, ladies and gentlemen.
I didn't even. They're like, you want to know what your psych eval says? No, I don't want to know what my psych eval says. I don't fucking care. Just you had to sign it, send it back. I didn't care. I didn't even look at it. It's ridiculous.
That explains a lot. I'm just kidding. Let's go.
It might. Well, there you are.
I absolutely want to know.
There you are, dear listener. Vin out.
Sori out.
Go.